Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. Before we begin today's lesson, it would be in order to remind you that this textual study is based on Javed Ahmed Ghamidi, our teacher's understanding of the Quran, the way he has understood and translated and annotated it in his book Al-Bayan. So basically, he is someone who is the foremost or one of the most distinguished students of Ustaz Amin Hassan Islahi, who himself was a student of Ustaz Hamiduddin Farahi. So as far as the Farahi school is concerned, they are distinguished in their approach to the Quran, in which they study the text of the Quran directly, and they do not use any indirect sources to understand the Quran. It is the language of the Quran which they use, and this language includes, of course, the appreciation of the structure of the Quran, at the same time the context, and also the fact that the Quran has been revealed in classical Arabic, so a person has to be adept in the styles of classical Arabic. So this is how they have interpreted the Quran and shown that if the Quran is understood in this way, it's a highly literary masterpiece of the Almighty, and if we are able to decipher these styles, we will come very close to the purport of the Book of God. So let's start off by the literal and idiomatic translation of the part that we have already discussed. So this is, to be precise, verses 45 to 64. So the words are: إِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكِ بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنْهُ اسمه مسيح عيسى ابن مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين. Is, when, قالت, said, Al-Malaika, the angels. So is also translated as remember or remind them. So remind them, qalat al-malaika, when the angels said. And what did they say? Ya Maryam, O Mary, inna Allah, inna indeed Allah, God, yubashiruki, gives glad tidings to you. Yubashiruki gives glad tidings to you. Bikalimatin minhu, bikalimatin of a word, of a kalima, minhu, from him, which means from God himself. Ismuhu. So ismuhu would mean his name is. So this is how I would read when I would read this expression disjointedly. But when I would join the two, my reading would be min husmuhul masih. Min husmuhul masih. Otherwise it will be minhu ismuhul masih. So al-Masih, of course, is Jesus, or is Christ. Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, son of Mary. The Christ, who is the Messiah. In fact, the true translation would be Messiah, who is Jesus, son of Mary. We've already discussed this, that this was a tradition amongst the ancient kings also, and it was also included in the Israelite tradition that when a prophet would come, he would baptize while he would be leaving the next prophet, and this would be done by anointing the forehead with oil. But because of the fact that it seems that Jesus had spoken in his cradle, so therefore his anointment, it was considered was done by the Almighty. So that is why he's called Al-Masih, the Messiah, who has been wiped. So Isa ibn Maryam, wajihan fid dunya. So wajihan would be noble, fid dunya wal akhirah. He would be noble in this world and in the hereafter. Wa minal muqarrabin, and minal, from, al-muqarrabin, from the chosen ones, or from the near ones, or from the favored ones. So the complete translation would be: remind them when angels said, O Mary, indeed God gives you glad tidings of a word from him. Ismuhu al-Masih, his name would be the Messiah, Isa ibn Maryam, or Jesus, son of Mary, and he would be noble both in this world, ad-dunya wal akhirah, and in the hereafter, wa, and min al-muqarrabin, and he would be amongst the favored ones. So just a small explanation that why is it that Jesus has been called a kalima from God. So at other instances he's been called kalimatullah. So because he was born of a miraculous birth, and the Almighty needed only to say be, which means kun, and of course then Jesus was conceived as a result of this order from the Almighty, and Mary, his mother, became pregnant with him. So that is why Jesus is also called Kalima. وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَهْدِ, and Yukallimu, kallama yukallimu, kalam, you've heard of this word, so it's like speak, he will speak. Wa yukallimu annas, to the people. He will speak to the people. Fi, in al-mahd. Mahd is the cradle where a child is normally kept. Wa, and kahla. So kahl is advanced age or elderly age. Wa, and min, from as-salihin, the righteous, and he shall be from amongst the righteous. So idiomatically the verse would be, he would speak in the cradle, he will speak to people. وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسِ, he will speak to people. Fil mahd, in the cradle, and when he will be in advanced age, and he will be from among the righteous. وَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, min, from as-salihin, the righteous. Obviously the small explanation here would be in order that the word yukallimu nas, that he will speak to people, it's not going to be some ordinary speech. Of course, it will be the speech of a prophet, which means that he will call to people, he will call upon people and let them know that he has been designated in the cradle to be God's prophet. Again, this is something of a miraculous nature, so that the Israelites could be jolted and shaken from their slumber. قالت رب أنى يكون لي ولد. So now it's Mary who is going to reply to the angels. So قالت here refers to Mary. Mary said, قالت, Mary said, Rabbi, Lord, Anna, how, yakunu li, happen to me, will happen to me, waladun, walad means a child, wa, and lam, not, yamsasni, touched me, yamsasni, touched me, bashar, a human. So literally it would be, she said, Lord, how happened to me, a child, and not touched me, a human. That is how literally. But of course, if you can make sense of it idiomatically, it would mean that she replied, O Lord, how can I have a child when no human being has touched me? Which means, of course, that no man has touched me, no one has come close to me, in the sense that there could be any conception. Qala, so this is God's reply. Qala, God said, Kazalikillah, it is in this matter that God does. Yakhluku ma yasha. Yakhluku, he creates. Ma, what? Yasha, he wants. So it would be idiomatically, it would be said that God said, in this way God creates whatever he wants to. Kazalika Allahu yakhluku ma yasha. In this way God creates whatever he wants to. And then an explanation of this creation is made right after it. Is Iza qadha amran. Iza, when. Qadha, he decides. Amran, a matter. Fa'innama, he only. Fa'innama, only. Yaqulu, needs to say. Luhu, to that thing. Kun. Kun means to become, to be. And the answer is fayakun, and it becomes, or it happens. So once again, idiomatically, Iza qaza amran, when he decides a matter. Iza, when. Qaza, decides. Amran, a matter. So when he decides a matter, fa innama, only. If innama, therefore only. Fa is therefore, innama is only. So therefore only he says to that thing, kun, fayakun, be, which means get created, be created, and it gets created. So God does not need any substance, he does not need any material, he does not need any resources. And this is something that has been mentioned elsewhere in the Quran by the words Badi'us samawat, which means that he creates the heavens and the earth without any material. He originates them, he creates them in a way that he does not need any stuff to fashion it and then create something. So he creates out of nothingness. In other words, he creates out of nothingness. Iza qaza amran, because this is something that it's hard to imagine for us, because we human beings, we are used to creation with some raw material. Things are before us and we rearrange them in order to produce something. But with God, it is entirely different. He does not need any raw material. All that he needs to say is kun, which is be, get created, and that thing gets created. So therefore the Quran says fayakun, and it happens. It becomes what it was intended to become. Wa, and yu'allimuhul kitaba. So now it is Jesus about whom it is said, he will teach يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. So now the fa'il or the subject of these words, of course, is something that the Almighty has assigned to Himself, is ascribed to Himself. So وَيُعَلِّمُهُ would mean God will teach Jesus. The who pronoun refers to Jesus. So يُعَلِّمُهُ, God will teach Jesus. And what will He teach him? Al-Kitab wal-Hikmah. He will teach them the book or the law. So we have seen how in the Quran the word kitab is also used for the law, and hikmah is used for wisdom. And these are the two components of religion that we have been given. And the way the sentence is constructed here, the next part is at-Tawrah wal-Injil. So if you look at the words and have a linguistic appreciation, you'll understand that the word al-Kitab is actually referring to Torah, and al-Hikmah is referring to Injil, because the Torah is law and Injil is just wisdom. So in effect, the construction would not be what is commonly conceived, that He will teach them, He will teach him, or God will teach him the book and the wisdom and the Torah and the Injil. So that is not. So God will instruct him in the law and in the wisdom, which means the Torah and the Injil. So a Torah is referring to Al-Kitab and Al-Hikmah is referring to Al-Injil. Wa rasulan ila bani Israel. And you can see that there is a suppression of a verb here, because it cannot be understood unless there is a verb here, and that is something which is suppressed and understood. So He will send him. He will send him. The word send, yab'asu or yursalo, is the words to this effect have been suppressed. So wa yursilu rasulan would mean, and He will send him as a messenger. Wa yursilu rasulan, the word yursilu has been suppressed. He will send him as a messenger, ila, towards Bani Israel, towards the Israelites, and which also then specifies his contours and the objective, not only the objective, but the four corners of his teaching. It will be directed specifically to the Israelites. And now that teaching is something that is also explained. Anni qad ji'tukum. Anni, which I, qad, indeed, ji'tukum, have come to you. Ji'tu, come, kum, to you. Indeed, I have come to you bi ayatin, with a sign. I have come to you with a sign. Mir rabbikum, from your Lord, from your Lord. So of course, if this the word has been used without defining it, which means that there is no alif lam, and it could be spoken of as if it's multiplicity, it's magnifying something, which means that I have come to you with a sign. It can also refer to all the signs that were given to him, and it can also refer to the biggest sign, which of course was his miraculous birth. Mir rabbikum, from your Lord. I have come to you with a sign, or have come to you with many signs, as I can see, interpret that both these can be possible. But to me, it seems that here the word ayah has been left out as a common noun, and it has not been defined by the alif lam to point towards the miraculous birth of Jesus. Ji'tukum bi ayatin min rabbikum, from your Lord. Anni akhluqu lakum min at-teen. Anni, I, that I, akhluqu, I create, lakum, for you, min at-teen, from clay. Teen is clay, min, from, ka hay'ati at-tayr, in the form of a bird, a structure or something which is constituted in the form of a bird. I create this clay, I fashion out this clay in the form of a bird. And then what do? فَأَنْفُخُ فِيهِ. Fa, therefore, anfukhu, I breathe into it. I blow into it. Fi, he, in it. فَأَنْفُخُ means I blow. Fi, in, he, it. So the structure that was created in the form of a bird, he says that I blow my breath into it. فَيَكُونُ تَيْرًا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Fa, therefore, yakunu, it becomes. Yakunu, it becomes. Tayran means bird. Be, from, isn't, permission, Allah, God. So I breathe into it, I blow into it, and therefore it becomes a bird with God's permission. Bi-iznillah, with God's permission. Wa, and ubriyu. So ubriyu, and I heal. The akmaha means people who are born blind. I heal the born blind. Ubriyul akmaha, Actually, the construction is something like this. فَأُبْرِيُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَأُبْرِيُ الْأَبْرَصَ. I cure the born blind and I cure the lepers, people who have this ailment of leprosy. وَأُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. And I bring to life al-mauta, the dead. I bring to life the dead. Be from, isn't permission, Allah, God. And I bring to life the dead. I bring to life the dead with God's permission. And he continues, wa and unabbi'ukum. Unabbi'u, I inform. Kum, you. I inform you. Be of ma, what. Ta'kulun, you eat. Wa and ma, what. Tadakhirun, you store. Fi, in buyutikum. Your buyut, of course, is the plural of bayt, and buyut would be houses, and buyutikum would mean your houses. So idiomatically it would be, and I inform you of what you eat, and I inform you what you store in your houses. Tadakhiruna, you store. Fi buyutikum, in your houses. So if you note that basically this verse is giving this or describing some of the miracles, and these miracles, as you can see, we can enumerate them, that he creates a bird and gives life to it, and then he cures people who are born blind, then he cures lepers, and he gives life to the dead, and he informs people what they are eating and what they are stocking or storing in their homes. So these are some of the miracles that were given to Jesus. They have been mentioned in detail in the Bible as well, in the Injil as well, and the Quran is referring to them. Inna fi zalika la ayatan lakum in kuntum mu'minin. Inna, indeed, fi, in, zalika, this, la aya, a great sign, lakum, for you, lakum, inna fi zalika la ayatan lakum would mean indeed in this there is a great sign for you, in, if, kuntum, you, mu'minin, are believers. So in this, of course, referring to the fact that this whole list of miracles which is being given before them, and this was something that they had witnessed. So Jesus is telling them that there is a great sign in this for you if you are going to believe. In kuntum mu'minin, if you would intend to believe. If you have intention to believe, then there is a great sign for you. But if you are after denying, then of course nothing can convince you. Wa musaddiqan lima bayna yadayya. Wa and musaddiqa, confirm. Lima, what. Baina, between. Yadayya, it actually baina yadayya is one construction, which means before you. So I have come to confirm what is before you. I have come to confirm what is before you from the Torah, which means that I have come to confirm the Torah. وَلِأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ بَعْدَ الَّذِي حُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Wa and lay, so that. Uhilla, I make lawful. Lakum, for you. Ba'd allazi, something. Allazi, that. Hurrima alaykum. Hurrima has been prohibited. Alaykum, upon you. So Jesus is saying that I have come in confirmation of the Torah. In other words, it's not to abrogate the Torah. I'm not bringing a new Sharia. The Sharia of the Torah is applicable. So I am not going to abrogate it. I am not going to cancel it. So it says I'm going to confirm it, and I'm also going to turn certain things that were prohibited to you as legal, as lawful. Wa and ji'tukum, ji'tu, I come, kum, to you, and I have come to you. Bi ayatim min rabbikum, be, with ayah, a sign. Ayah is sign. Min, from, rabbikum, your Lord, and I have come to you. Or in fact, the translation would be, I have brought a sign. So ji'tu be is actually one construction. So ji'tu be would be, I have brought a sign. I have brought a sign to you from your Lord. Fattaqu, so fear Allah, God. Fattaqullaha, therefore fear. Phase, therefore ittaqu is fear Allah, God. Wa, and ati'un, and obey me. Actually the words are ati'unani, but in accordance with the linguistic principles, the last words are often dropped in such a construction to also make way for the rhyme of the verse. So in order to make it rhyme with mu'mineen, the verse finishes at ati'un, otherwise it was ati'unani. So fattakullaha wa ati'un, therefore fear God and obey me. So this is what Jesus is telling them. Inna, indeed, Allah, God, indeed God, Rabbi is my Lord, indeed God is my Lord, wa, and Rabbukum, Rabbu is Rabb or Lord, kum is your. So indeed God is my Lord and He is your Lord. So remember, when at the end of noun you find this ya being integrated, it often refers to this person himself. When it says Rabbi, it would mean my Rabb, my Lord. And when it says Rabbukum, it would mean your Lord. So indeed God is my Lord and indeed God is your Lord. Fa'buduhu, fa, therefore, or buduhu. So this is how I would read it when I'm not joining it with fa. Otherwise it would be fa'buduhu. But when I would like to explain this word, then I will always read it just disjointedly. And in that case, it is read as fa or buduhu. So orbud means worship. Who? Him, referring to God. Therefore worship Him, or therefore worship God. Haza, this. Siratun, the way. Mustaqim, the straight. This is the straight way. That regard God to be, God is my Lord and God is your Lord. So therefore you have to worship Him, and you cannot worship any other but Him, and this is the straight path. فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ قَالَ مَنْ أَنْصَارِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Therefore, lamma, when, ahassa, felt. Ahassa means to feel, or because it's the past tense, he felt. Isa, Jesus. Therefore, when felt Jesus. Therefore, when felt Jesus, min whom, min, from whom, them, al-kufr, denial. So, idiomatically, we would translate it as, therefore, when felt Jesus from them disbelief. But if you make it out as a idiomatic translation, then it would be, when Jesus felt that these people are going to deny Him. They are going to deny Him. فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ قَالَ, he said, man, who? Ansari, my helpers. So remember, Ansar is the plural of Nasir. And whenever a noun is appended at the end by the word ya, so it refers to the speaker. Man Ansari would be my helper, my helpers. So Jesus said, who will be my helpers? Man Ansari, who? Man is who? Ansari is my helpers. Who will be my helpers? Ila, towards God. Allah is God. So actually it is in the way of God, in the cause of God, towards the cause of God. So who will be my helpers in the cause of God? Qala. So now the Havari, or the disciples of Jesus, they come in the picture and they reply. So qal hawariyun. So hawariyun is the plural of Havari. So and of course the word Havari means disciple. The students of Jesus are called Havari. So the qal hawariyun would mean the students of Jesus replied, Nahnu. Nahnu means we. Ansar, helpers. Allah, God. We are God's helpers. We are God's helpers. In other words, if you have made this appeal, then we would say yes to it, and we will be helping you for the cause of, or in the cause of God. And then they say, Amanna, we have professed faith. Billah, in God. Amanna billah, we have professed faith in God. Wa, washhad, actually this is an imperative verb. Washhad would mean and bear witness. And what is that? Anna muslimun. Actually, ishhad be is one word, and it is an imperative noun, imperative verb, which means bear witness. Anna muslimun, that we are submitters, that we are Muslim. So this is what the Hawaris, the disciples of Jesus, said to him, that we will help you in the cause of God. We have believed in God, and we believe, and you bear witness, which means that they are telling Jesus that please bear witness that we have submitted, or we have been obedient to God. And now they continue And this continuation is in the form of a prayer. Rabbana, our Lord, Amanna, we have believed, Bima, in, Ma, what, Anzalta, you have revealed. So, our Lord, we have believed in what you have revealed. We have believed in what you have revealed. Wa, and ittaba'na. Again, when I will join, I will read as wattaba'na. But when I will read it singularly or solitary, in a solitary way, it would be ittaba'na. Otherwise, in normal joint reading, it would be wattaba'na. Wattaba'na rasula. And we, wattaba'na, ittaba'a means to follow. Na means us. So we have followed ar-rasul, the messenger. Fa, therefore, uktubna. So again, when I would read this disjointedly, it would be uktubna. But when I would read it jointly, it would be faktubna. Faktubna would mean, please write us. Ma, with ash-shahideen, the witnesses. So it is as if they are saying that, O Lord, we have believed in what you have revealed and we have followed the messenger. So therefore, write us among the people who bear witness. Write us among people who are bearing evidence. Again, this is up till now we have seen how these Hawaris, how these disciples of Jesus are talking to him in reply to the appeal that was made by him to them. And now, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Wa, and makaru. So makaru means scheme. In fact, a precise translation would be a hidden scheme, something of which you have no knowledge. It's like a plot. Wa makaru, they schemed. Wa, and makara, schemed Allah, God. And they schemed, and God also schemed. Wa, and Allah, God. Khair, better. Al-Makirin, those who scheme. So they schemed and God also schemed, and God is the best of those who scheme. This is how we would translate it. Again, we know that this has been discussed earlier, that Judas, who had actually informed about the whereabouts of Jesus, he was actually crucified in place of Jesus, and they thought they had actually crucified Jesus himself, whereas it was not the case. So this is what is meant by the fact that they schemed. They wanted to, of course, scheme and somehow bring Jesus to his death, but they were not able to do so because God's scheme was stronger. And in return, instead of Jesus being crucified, it was Judas who was crucified. But the people who tried to crucify him or ended up crucifying him did actually think that they had crucified him, whereas the truth was that it was someone else in his place. Is qala Allahu ya Isa. Is when qala said Allah, God, ya Isa, O Jesus, inni, indeed I, mutawaffika. Mutawaffi would mean yatawaffa, mutawaffi. So I will give death ka to you. So it would be is qala Allahu ya Isa. Remember when God said to Jesus, inni mutawaffika, I will give death to you, wa rafi'uka, and rafi'u lift, ka you, and lift you, ilayya, towards myself. So God said to Jesus that I will give you death, I will make you die and lift you towards myself. Va, and mutahhiruka, purify you. Mutahhir, to purify. Ka, you. Min al-lazina kafaru, from al-lazina, those kafaru who have disbelieved. So I shall purify you from those who have disbelieved. In the Arabic language, when the word mutahhiruka is used in this sense, it actually means to separate someone, to isolate someone. So mutahhiruka min al-lazina kafaru would mean the purification here is that God will isolate him. He will take him away. He will not let him be mixed up with those people. He will take him away. He will purify him, which is the result of that. Min al-lazina kafaru. So he will purify them from those who have disbelieved. Wa, and ja'ilu, make. I will make. Allazina, those who, ittaba'uka, who have followed you, fawqa, above, allazina, those, kafaru, who have disbelieved in you, ila, so actually the word is disbelieved, but we understand that here the object of this verb has been suppressed, but because it has already been mentioned in the previous part that it is basically Jesus who's been spoken of. So kafaru Isa is what is meant here, that I will make those people who follow you above, fawqa, above, those people who disbelieve in you. In other words, people who will follow you will always remain above. Above would mean that those who have disbelieved will remain subservient to them. Ila, until Yawmil Qiyamah. Yawm is day, Qiyamah is judgment. Until the day of judgment, this is what's going to happen. That those who have disbelieved in you, they will always remain subservient to those who follow you. Thumma, then, ilayya, towards me, marji'ukum. Marji'ukum would mean your, marja is return, kum is your. So towards me will be your return. Fa, therefore, ahkumu, I will decide. So I will decide, bainakum, baina is between, kum is you, I will decide between you, fi ma, that in, kuntum, you, fihi, in which, takhtalifun, would be differing. So what is meant here is that I will, summa ilayya marji'ukum, and then your return would be to me, and then I will decide, fa ahkumu bainakum, between you, fima kuntum, in that in which you were differing, fima kuntum, in that, kuntum, you, fihi, in which, takhtalifun, you were differing. And I think I did talk about this. This is very important to know that it seems that there are certain things which will only be resolved by the Almighty Himself. And so therefore, it is also an object lesson for us that when we think that our preaching or our persuasion is not making headway, then remember that there are certain things that the Almighty Himself has said that only He will be able to resolve. We will not be able to resolve certain things. So this is also something of a target that we must all have in our minds, that if there are things that we are not being able to maybe put across or persuade people who we would like to persuade, then remember this is something that God has taken upon Himself, that there are certain things which we will never be able to do so. Only God will be able to do so, but that too on the day of judgment. Because the words are, ilayya marji'ukum, towards me is your return. And now what will happen is, fa, therefore, amma, as for, allazina, those. So as for those, kafaru, who have committed disbelief, who are disbelievers, fa, therefore, u'azzibuhum, u'azzibu, I will give punishment, hum, to them. So as for those who have disbelieved, I will give punishment to them. And this, what would be this punishment? Azaban shadidan, in the form of a grave punishment. I will give them punishment in the form of a grave punishment. This is a particular style of the Arabic language in which, in order to emphasize and stress certain things, they are repeated in this way. فَأُعَذِّبُهُمْ أَذَابًا شَدِيدًا, I will give them a very, very harsh punishment. Fit dunya, in this world, wal akhirah, and in the hereafter. Fit dunya, actually the construction is fit dunya wa fil akhirah, in this world and in the hereafter. وَمَا لَهُم مِّن نَاصِرِينَ, wa, and, ma, not, lahum, to them, min, from, nasirin, helpers, and there will be none for them who are helpers. Actually, this is how literally you would translate, and not for them from amongst helpers. This is how literally the verse goes, but idiomatically, of course, it would mean, and there will be no helper from them. Wa, and, amma, as for, allazina, those, amanu, who believed. So, and as for those who believed, wa, and amilu, and they did. What did they do? As-salihat. Actually, the words are a'malu salihat, and as-salihat here means righteous deeds. And as for those people who believed, as for those people who amanu, who had faith, who professed faith, wa amilu salihat, and they did righteous deeds, fa, therefore, yuwaffihim, God will reward them. Yuwaffi, He will compensate them fully. Him, them. Ujurahum, so ujur is the plural of ajr, and ajr means reward. Hum is them. So God will give them full as far as their ajr or as far as their reward is concerned. So waffa yuwaffi actually means to give something in full. I mean, no reduction will be made. So fayuwaffihim ujurahum would mean that God will actually give their ajr, give their reward to them in full. Wa, and Allah, God, la, not, yuhibbu, likes, az-zalimin, the people who are oppressive. So wallahu la yuhibbu zalimin, and God does not like the oppressors. Wa, and Allah, God, la, not, yuhibbu, likes, zalimin, the oppressors, and God does not like people who are the oppressors. So if you have any questions at the up till now, we can stop and take up those questions. Otherwise, I can continue.
So, Dr. Saleem, no questions at this time, but I have a question. What
Okay.
are the details of Ansar Allah? Who are they? What entity?
The word Ansar has been used as a noun here to signify the fact that the disciples of Jesus, we know that there were 12 disciples, so they actually, when they were given this call from Jesus that He would like people to support Him, to help Him for the cause of God, which means that they should associate themselves as companions to Him, they should get instructed and educated through Him, and then as a team they should propagate the message of God. So these Hawaris are called Ansar, also called Ansar, because the word Ansar actually means helpers. And the word Hawari has come in the Arabic language from most probably the Hebrew language. And the exact equivalent of the word Hawari in English is disciple. So basically it were these 12 disciples who said yes to Jesus and said that, well, we will learn from you, and then we'll become a team, and then wherever you depute us or wherever you send us, we will deliver the message of God.
Oh, okay. Another question I had, Dr. Saleem. So, I know that Surah Al-Imran and Surah Baqarah are paired surahs. Surah Baqarah seems to be a surah which has much more depth in it. It's very, kind of vast. Am I correct in thinking that?
I think maybe you will have a different opinion once we are through with this surah, because you see we've just started it. The first 20 or so verses were just an introduction, and it was after those 20 verses in which the surah actually began, and so we have just about 20 verses into the surah. But once you go and finish the rest of, because the surah is, I believe, around more than 200 verses, so once you finish that surah, you'll see that it is also a very profound surah, and the only difference is that the addressees in Baqarah were the Jews, and here they are the Christians.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saleem. No more questions at this time, so you can continue with the session.
Inna, indeed, Masala, example, Isa, of Isa, indeed the example of Isa or Jesus, in the Lahe, to God, in the to or with, Allah, God. So the example of Jesus with God is what? Ka masali Adama, ka, similar, masal, the example, Adam of Adam. So the example of Jesus before God is the same as the example of Adam. Ka is a word which denotes similarity. Khalaqahu, khalaqa, create, who, him, which means of course Adam. So God created him, min, from turab, clay, thumma, then, qala, he said, lahu, to him, kun, be. Therefore, fayakun, therefore yakun, it was. So the example of Jesus to God is the same as the example of Adam. God created Adam, khalaqahu, min turab, from clay. Then he said to that, summa qala lahu, then he said to him, kun, be, which means get created. Fayakun, and he got created, and he was there. So it's like saying be and it becomes. Al-haqqu min rabbika. Al-haqqu, this is the truth. Once again, the verb is not there, it's missing, but obviously it's suppressed. So it's al-haqqu, or you can also say haza al-haqqu, haza huwa al-haqqu. You can also refer it to be a demonstrative pronoun, which is haza. So haza huwa al-haqq, something to that effect. So it's not essential to take it to be a verb. It can also be a demonstrative pronoun. In fact, it's better to take it as a demonstrative pronoun to be suppressed. So al-haqqu min rabbika, this is the truth. Al-haqq, truth. Min, from. Rabbika, Rabb is Lord. Ka is your. This is the truth from your Lord. Fa, therefore, la, not. Takum, become. Min, from. Al-mumtareen. Mumtareen means who are in doubt. This is the truth from your Lord, and do not be among the doubtful. Do not be among people who are doubtful. So, al-haqqu min rabbika fala takunanna min al-mumtareen. Fa, therefore, man, he, hajjaka, disputes with you or argues with you. Haja is to argue, ka is you. So, he who disputes with you, mimbad is one construction which means after. Ma, that. Ja'aka, comes to you or came to you. Ja'a, came, ka, to you. Min, from. Al-ilm, the knowledge. So, until here the idiomatic translation would be, therefore he who argues with you in it about this thing, who argues with you in this matter or in this affair or in this discussion, mim ba'd, after, ma ja'aka min al-ilm, after the ilm has come to you, after the knowledge has come to you. Fa, therefore, qul, say, or tell that person, ta'alaw, bring. Ta'alaw is bring. Nad'u abna'ana, and ta'alaw, come, or call, and we will, we say, let us call or let us bring. Nad'u, let us call. Abna'ana. So abna, of course, refers to children, and na is for the speaker. So let us call our children. Abna'ana wa abna'akum. We will call our children and we will call your children. Abna'ana would mean our children, abna'akum would be your children. So abna is the, of course, the plural, and ibn is it's singular. So abna would mean we will call our children and we will call your children. Wa, and nisa'ana, nisa, women, na, ours. We will call our nisa, we will call our women. Wa, and nisa'akum, and we will call your women. We will call your women and we will call our women. Of course, the words, the way have been used here, the words nisa or woman refers to wives, because the family is under discussion. The children have already been mentioned, and this is a very common feature that the word nisa often connotes the wife. So nisa ana is not just women, it's actually referring to wives. And to our wives, we will call our wives and we will call your wives. Wa, and anfusana, and we will call ourselves. Wa anfusakum, and we will call yourselves. So this is like a big dialogue or debate, as if they are going to come and then they are going to swear on something. Summa nabtahil, and then we will pronounce the curse. For summa nabtahil, summa nabtahil would mean, and we will then plead. Ibtahala means to plead. We will then plead. Summa nabtahil, we will then plead. For naj'al, that, and we will say what that make la'natullahi alal kazibin. For naj'al, we will make the la'na, we will make the curse, la'natullah, God's curse, ala, on, al kazibin, the liars. And we will supplicate that the curse of God should envelop, should surround every liar. Inna haza lahuwal qasasul haq. Inna, indeed, haza, this, lahuwa, again this is like a stress, this is like an emphasis, and the word has been repeated. Indeed this, indeed, it's like saying indeed this, indeed it. So it's like a repetition here, but of course that is meant to emphasize. Inna haza lahuwal qasasul haq would mean indeed, precisely, this is a true story, a true account. Qasas, of course, is a story or an anecdote. Al-haq would mean a true. So indeed this is the true story. In this is a true anecdote. Wa ma, wa, and ma is not. Min ilahin, from God. Illa, except God. Allah, God. There is no God except God. Ma min ilahin would mean there is no deity, not min ilahin, from among God. There is no one from among God except God. Or idiomatically it would mean there is no God but God. There is no deity but God. Wa inna Allaha lahuwal azizul hakim. Wa, and inna, indeed, Allah is God. Lahuwa, indeed He. Al-Aziz is mighty. Al-Hakim is wise. And indeed, it is God who is mighty and it is God who is wise. Fa in tawallaw. Fa, therefore, in is if. Tawallaw. Tawallaw would mean that they turn away. Fa, therefore, inna Allah, inna, indeed, Allah is God. So if they turn away, therefore, indeed, God, alimum. Alimum means He has knowledge. He is aware. Alimum be is actually one word. Al-Mufsideen, those who spread mischief. So if they turn away, then indeed God knows the people who spread mischief, who are mischievous. Qul, say, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, O people of the book, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, O people of the book, Ta'alaw. I think this, okay. Ta'alaw would mean come. Ta'alaw is come. Ila, towards. Kalimatin, a word. Sawa'in. Sawa'in means equal or common. Bainana. Bainana would mean between us. So basically it's baina is between and na is us. Between us. Wa, and bainakum, between you. So idiomatically it would mean, oh, tell the people of the book, come towards a word which is common between us and between you. Bainana wa bainakum. And what is that? What is that commonality? Allah na'buda, that we shall not. Na'budu or na'buda, worship. Illa, except Allah, God. And what is that commonality? It is Allah na'buda illallah, we shall not worship anyone except God. Allah na'buda illallah. Wa, and la, not. Nushrika, we will not associate partners. Bihi, with him. Shay'an, in any way or in any form. Wa, and la, not. Yattakhiza, we will hold. Ba'duna, some of us. Ba'dan, some others. And we will not make some of us, some others, arbabam. So arbab is the plural of rab. So we will not make anyone amongst us as arbab, as Lord. Mindun means except. Allah is God. So idiomatically it would mean that wala nushriku bihi shay'an, we will not associate anything with him. Wala nushriku bihi shay'an, not a single thing will we associate with him. وَلَا يَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and none of us will make any one Lord as our God. Any Lord except God, which means that this is something that we'll make a commitment of. Therefore, if tawallaw, in tawallaw, if they turn away. Therefore, kulu, tell them. Ishhadu, which means bear witness, or if you read it jointly, for kul ushhadu. Bi anna, be that, anna, we, Muslimun, that we are Muslims. So idiomatically it would mean, therefore if they turn away, tell them, ishhadu bi anna Muslimun, bear witness that we are Muslims, that we are people who submit. So this brings us to an end to the passage that we discussed last time. I'm not going to go any further. That inshallah we'll start the next time. So if you have any questions regarding the passage that we have studied, please raise them. Otherwise, you can also ask non-topic questions.
So, Dr. Saleem, my question is, why God asked for helpers and not servants? Since He can do everything with just a kun. What is the reason?
I mean, this is like God encouraging us. And it is saying that when you are going to work for me, I don't need your help. It's just an honor that I am bestowing on you by making you a vehicle, a means to further my cause. So it is that honor which God is blessing us, and the way He has chosen, I mean, He could have done all these things Himself, but because He wants people to earn this honor and earn it on merit, and therefore also as a result earn higher reward in the hereafter. So he gives this opportunity and chance to people so that they can make the best of it.
So is this something that is still available to us as?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because you see, to become God's helpers, we will inshallah study in due course of time that one of the contingent requirements of our faith is called Nusrat Deen, which means to help religion for whatever cause. We must actually come forward and help that cause that relates to our own circumstances, to our own means, and to our own area. So, helping the cause of God, in other words, is one of the requirements of our religion. In fact, it's a requirement of our faith. It has been discussed elsewhere. So, just as we are required to pray, just as we are required to spread righteousness, another very important task or obligation that every Muslim has is to show his nusra. Nusra means help. And help, of course, means to do whatever you can for the cause of God.
So is that why the Abrahamic religions, not Judaism, I think, but Christianity and Islam, they talk about converting people? Is that why the Dawat is there, mission is there?
No, that is another thing. You see, whether you convert other people or not, that's besides. I mean, that could be one form of helping God, but I mean, you see, this is not an all inclusive thing. In various periods of time, it could be various things. For example, educating people on religion itself it could be a cause in some period of time. Similarly, building a mosque could be a cause, building an Islamic center could be one cause, helping out people in need could be one cause. So you see, these are all various causes. It depends where you fit in and in which locality you are and what your exact coordinates are and how you can help the cause of religion. So that is the important thing.
Okay. Akram Bhatti Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, I have this rather dramatic question. In Ayah 63, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, and same thing in 64, when تَوَلَّوْا. Actually, it's the second person. Why do we translate in third person? And how do we recognize that this has to be translated?
Well, it is very simple. You see, when you're reading the text, it flows out of the text. You cannot read it to be tawallaw means referring to your addressee. It's referring that would have been tatawallaw. So this is tawallaw, which is referring to the third person, and also it's a past tense. So with the past time, I mean there is no other way. Had it been spoken to the addressee, it would not have made any sense, because you see, it is being said that these are the people to whom you are to say something, or you have to give them advice. And if these people are not going to accept their advice, then this is how they are going to end up. So you see, the sense can only be made if you translate it in the third person. If you translate it in the second person, that would mean that those people are right there in front of you and you are addressing them, whereas the Quran is not addressing them. It's no, actually, that is something, if you have a strong grip of the language, and at the same time you keep reading the verses again and again, especially the context, and you'll not falter after that.
सर मैंने व्हाट्सएप पे भी मैसेज किया था आपको, तो आपने लाइव सेशन में क्वेश्चन करने का कहा था। साकिब खान मेरा नाम है जी। सवाल मेरा तकफीर से मुतल्लिक है। आपने एक मरतबा सवाल के जवाब में फरमाया था कि तकफीर जो है वो उसके लिए ज़रूरी है इत्माम हुज्जत, और ये इख्तियार इस रूए ज़मीन पर सिर्फ अल्लाह और उसके रसूल के पास था, और चूंकि नबूवत का सिलसिला ख़त्म हो गया तो अब तकफीर भी हमेशा के लिए ख़त्म हो गया। तो इस पर कुछ उलमा को मैं सुन रहा था, उनका मैं नुक्ता नज़र बयान करता हूँ कि वो ये कहते हैं कि जी एक तो वो काफिर होता है जिस पर इत्माम हुज्जत हो जाए और वो इनकार कर दे, और एक काफिर का इतलाक होता है जाहिरी कैफियत पर, जैसे बुत परस्त आपके सामने आ जाए तो आप उसे काफिर बोलेंगे क्योंकि मिल्लत इस्लाम पर वो नहीं है, लेकिन ये इतलाक इत्माम हुज्जत वाली जिहद का इतलाक नहीं है। हजरत सुलेमान अलैहिस्सलाम
जी मैं समझ गया हूँ। देखें, इसमें जो आपने बात कही, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं, ऐसा ही है। لیکن جس وجہ سے اس لفظ کے استعمال سے گریز کیا جاتا ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ چونکہ کافر کے ساتھ اتمام حجت کا ورڈ اتنا زیادہ وابستہ ہو گیا ہے کہ جب بھی آپ اس کو استعمال کرتے ہیں کہ وہ اس کے اندر، لیکن اگر آپ اس باریکی کے ساتھ استعمال کریں تو پھر یہ اصل میں صرف ایک منکر کے مفہوم میں ہے، انکار کرنے کے مفہوم میں ہے. یہاں پہ وہ اصطلاحی انکار مراد نہیں ہے، اور اس لیے اس کا بہتر ترجمہ پھر یہاں پہ غیر مسلم ہونا چاہیے. یعنی وہ شخص کہ جس نے انکار کیا ہے، یعنی آپ دیکھیے نا کہ اس کے بارے میں پہلی تو بات یہ پوچھی جائے گی کیا اس کے سامنے حق کو پیش کیا گیا، کس نے پیش کیا، اور اگر اس نے جانتے پوچھتے انکار کیا تو آپ کو کیسے پتہ چلا. تو اس وجہ سے یہ بات کہ جو ایک ظاہری انکار بھی ہوتا ہے اس کے لیے پھر آپ یہ کہیں کہ وہ شخص جو ہے وہ آپ کی ملت پہ نہیں ہے، وہ ایک آپ سے اختلاف رکھتا ہے، وہ ایک دوسرے مذہب کا پیروکار ہے، تو اس کے لیے وہی الفاظ کیوں نہ استعمال کیے جائیں جو انہوں نے اپنے لیے استعمال کیے ہیں. مثال کے طور پہ وہ عیسائی ہے یا وہ یہودی ہے یا وہ غیر مسلم ہے. کیونکہ کفر کا جو لفظ ہے، جب آپ کافر کے مفہوم میں کہہ رہے ہوتے ہیں تو یہ اصل میں اس کے اندر پھر یہ کانوٹیشن آ جاتی ہے کہ وہ انکار موجود ہے. قرآن مجید نے بھی وہ انکار کا جو لفظ ہے بعض دفعہ بغیر اتمام حجت کے انکار کے لیے بھی استعمال کیا ہے، مکی صورتوں میں استعمال کیا ہے. یہ قرآن کا اپنا استعمال بھی ہے. لیکن پھر آپ کو اسپیسیفائی کرنا پڑے گا کہ جب آپ یہ کافر کا ورڈ آپ یوز کر رہے ہیں اس مفہوم میں، یہاں آپ صرف اس مفہوم میں کہہ رہے ہیں کہ بھئی یہ دوسری ملت پر ہے. تو یہ اصل میں ڈسٹنکشن ہمارے یہاں ہمارے ذہنوں میں رہتی نہیں ہے. اور جب ہم کسی کی تکفیر کر رہے ہوتے ہیں تو ہم کافر نہیں کہہ رہے ہوتے، وہاں تو ہم اس کو کہہ رہے ہوتے ہیں کہ تم اس دین سے نکل گئے ہو. لیکن یہاں جو سچویشن ہے وہ دوسری ہے. تو یہ آپ دو باتوں کو الگ الگ رکھیے کہ ایک اصطلاحی مفہوم ہے اور ایک لغوی مفہوم ہے، اور قرآن نے ان دونوں مفاہیم میں اس لفظ کو استعمال کیا.
جی اچھا، اس میں سر وہ قرآن کی یہ آیت کوٹ کرتے ہیں حضرت سلیمان علیہ السلام والے واقعے میں کہ جیسے ہی انہوں نے ملکہ سبا کو دعوت پہنچائی تو انہوں نے فوراً اس کو قبول کر لیا، لیکن اس پہ قرآن مجید نے یہ کہا کہ انہا کانت من قوم الکافرین، کہ یہ پہلے کافروں میں سے تھی. تو چونکہ ان کو تو جیسی دعوت ملی انہوں نے اس کو قبول کر لیا، تو اتمام حجت تو ان پر ہوا نہیں ہے. تو یہ
نہیں، وہاں تو ایسا نہیں ہے. وہاں یہ نہیں کہا کہ اسلام قبول کر لیا. انہوں نے کہا تھا آتونی مسلمین. انہوں نے کہا میں آپ کو مان کے، یہاں پہ اسلام مراد نہیں ہے، یہاں تو یہ مراد ہے کہ میں آپ کی اطاعت میں حاضر ہو جاتی ہوں. یہاں پہ مسلم اس مفہوم میں ہے. یعنی انہوں نے بلایا تو انہوں نے کہا آتونی مسلمین، تو میں حاضر ہو جاتی ہوں اسلام لا کے. یہاں پہ اسلام لا کے مطلب یہ نہیں کہ مسلمان ہو کے، بلکہ یہ مفہوم ہے کہ میں آپ کے سامنے حاضر ہو جاتی ہوں اطاعت کے ساتھ، کیونکہ اسلام اور مسلمہ کا مطلب انقیاد بھی ہے نا. تو وہاں یہ مطلب ہے ہی نہیں اسلام لانے کا.
اچھا، یعنی اس آیت سے جو استدلال کیا جا رہا ہے وہ وہاں پہ وہ والا
جی
اسلام
وہاں درست
قبول
نہیں
کرنا مراد نہیں ہے.
نہیں ہے.
اچھا ٹھیک ہو گیا سر، بہت شکریہ سر.
السلام علیکم سر. سر آئی وانٹیڈ ٹو ڈسکس سم تھنگ. آئی ہیو اے ریلیٹیو اینڈ وہ کیا کرتی ہیں کہ وہ قرآن کا کافی حصہ پڑھ کے تو نا ان کے گھر میں جو پانی ہے نا وہ ڈسپینسر میں آتا ہے، تو وہ اس کے اوپر نا بہت سارا نا دم کر کے نا تو اس پہ پھونک دیتی ہیں، اینڈ دین وہ کہتی ہیں کہ اس سے شفا ہوتی ہے اور یہ سب کچھ ہوتا ہے. اینڈ مطلب وہ اس چیز پہ بہت بلیو رکھتی ہیں اور وہ پتہ نہیں تسبیحات پڑھتی ہیں، بٹ میں نے جو ان کی لائف میں دیکھا ہے کہ وہ نماز نہیں پڑھتی اینڈ نہ ہی قرآن کے ساتھ ان کا زیادہ تر ریلیشن شپ ہے. تو نا چیز لائک کہ اس سے بہت زیادہ برکت پڑے گی، اور پھر وہ اتنی زیادہ اس کے بارے میں سینسٹیو ہو جاتی ہیں کہ وہ اس پانی کو چولہے پہ بھی نہیں چڑھانے دیتی ہیں، وہ بھی نہیں کرنے دیتی. تو اس کی اصل میں حقیقت کیا یہ پرسپیکٹو صحیح ہے؟
This is not correct at all. I mean, there is no blessing that you can transfer into a material substance. All that you can do, or you should do maybe, is to pray in general. I mean, the water does not become blessed by merely reading some words over it. This is an age-old practice. This is a practice that is continuing in our subcontinent and wherever our people go. But in fact, it has no basis anywhere in our sources. So if you would like anything to happen, that something should become a source of goodness to us, a source of blessing to us, the only way to go about is to invoke the Almighty by praying or supplicating before Him.
Right, sir. Thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, I have a question. From what I understand, from what I've been learning about Islam, it seems to be a religion that talks a lot about accountability in human beings. Self-analysis, how to improve yourself. Living in the West or even modern society, as technology has become so rampant, everything has, it almost seems that we are not accountable for ourselves anymore. We actually weaponize our bad behavior by calling it mental health all the time, especially, So what is your take on it? When talking to the young generation, when you talk about this, they kind of get very impacted by it and they kind of want to shun the religion. So how does one address this?
I think we have to understand that as far as impacting the younger generation is concerned, that we have to deal with their fragile minds in a very, very wise and a very sagacious way. We have to see how things are making sense before them or not. You see, what the biggest problem that I see, there is a huge communication gap between the elders and their young ones living in the US or in UK or other Western societies, and also people who attend Sunday schools or who are teachers when they preach religion. So there is a yawning gap between the two. And the reason is not only is cultural at times, because our parents and the teachers, they fail to understand that giving examples of their own times, they are no longer relevant. And at the same time, I also feel that on many occasions, the right argument in favor of a certain thing is not properly understood, and the way it is communicated does not make sense to them. And a third thing that I might like to add here is, again, that they don't understand that there are certain cultural differences that have now arisen. These cultural differences are, in fact, I can say there's a cultural evolution. Things have changed. For example, times to go out, times to sleep, time to eat, all these things, they have drastically changed. And as parents and as guardians and as teachers, at times we insist on these things. And our insistence is another example that comes to my mind, or in fact, it could be a fourth point here. That is that these are very small things. In the grand scheme of things, the larger things, for example, are how you can connect your child to God, how he can become a righteous individual, how he is good in his honesty and in his conduct. So these things are the grand things. But instead of concentrating on these bigger ideals, our parents, they concentrate on the smaller things which can be ignored. So I think there is a big gap, as I said earlier on, and unless we are able to bridge this gap, we might not be able to reach them.
But Dr. Saleem, that old adage that it's 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration, that seems to be almost Islam, where you have to work hard
Right.
on yourself spiritually, or you have to be accountable for your bad behavior in a certain way, and that kind of leads you to, or work hard to improve yourself as a human being, to improve. You can't put everything on mental health and talk about. It's almost like they weaponize the bad habits. So how do you kind of draw a
I
bridge
think,
to that?
yeah. So you see, this is a question of good parenting, that we have to understand that there is a time in which our younger minds, they want independence, they are rebellious, they want freedom, they won't listen to you. This is a time and this is an age which every single human being goes through, and it lasts for a considerable amount of time, 4 or 5 years maybe, sometimes less and sometimes more. So you have to be, as I said, they have fragile minds, they have to be treated as adults, they have to be treated with kindness, respect. And it is here that I see that our parents, they become harsh, they would raise their voices, at times even their hands. And this is, even if they weaponize something, it's not, you have to understand there is always a method to achieve your target. At times you have to delay that achievement. At times you have to bear some of the deviations that they are going through. So it's like a whole chart and a whole plan that must be before you even plan a child. So unless parenting at the way it should be done or discharged, unless we are able to have a good lesson in that, these faults are continuing to happen. And the reason, as I said, is that people, they experiment on their children, particularly the first child. The second child is slightly better, and maybe the third child is the best off if he comes, because at times you just have 2 children. And then what happens is that you are more experienced regarding your grandchildren. So when the time of your grandchildren comes, you are much more practical and you are much more wiser in your approach. I think this trial and error practice of trying on your first and second child, that has to end by making our concepts, correcting our concepts, because you see, you just cannot experiment on your child. And this is experimentation that is resulting in all these things.
Sir, the same question related to the teenagers. Nowadays, I feel even it's hard, like even you go like understand their problems, it's very hard to talk to them. They have a very short period of time attention. So how to make that time effective when we are talking to
I
them?
think the best thing is that that time should not be spent in criticism. That time should not be spent in argument, because what happens is that in the very small time which is common, often there is an argument that takes place between the parent and the child, in which either they are asking that where were you, or why did you sleep late at night, or why didn't you have your food, or where are you going. So these are things that, I mean, they make that small period of commonality a difficult one for the child. So the best thing would be that to avoid such questions. These are embarrassing questions. These are questions that, I mean, when they grow up, they have to be asked in a very tactful way. In fact, if you ask me, I would not even ask them. So the best would be that you make the best of those 10, 15, or maybe half an hour, whatever time you have in common, whatever time they get exposed to you, by making friends with them, by talking to them in their fields of interest. They might be having heroes, they might be looking at some movies, they might be having some cultural exposure. So you see, you need to do some small talk, you need to know what they are thinking, talk about them regarding their interests, and get educated yourself regarding some of the things that they like, so that that small period of exposure is spent in a pleasant way, not in a way that parents, which I generally see, whenever there is this common period of exposure, it often finishes off in that argument, and the child himself or herself does not feel good. He or she also feels bad, and the parent also feels bad, and this happens every day. So I think this has to be put an end to, and that can only be done if you show this patience and let them do what they want to, become a role model of what you want them to become, and give them time. You see, it's not going to happen overnight. Children are not, they're not toys, they're not mechanical things. You just cannot change their direction. Every single person has a personality type. They have so many other traits that they get influenced from. So it will take time. And no one is going to be a person who is sinless or who is without blemishes, because this is human. Human element is always going to be there. So give them time, be more considerate, be more patient. If they are making mistakes, then there is a method to correct those mistakes. These are all things about which I have spoken of and written a number of times. So maybe you can listen to some of my talks on this subject. Similarly, I have written a lot on this subject, because this is very, very close to my heart. I always try to talk about these things. But in this short space of time in which I am answering you, I can only be brief.
I will check. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. There seem to be no more questions at this time.